It is Monday, February 5th, 2024. This is a live edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. Producer Dan, who's been oh so hardworking as we go live for the first time, is along the way. And Plouffe, we are back live because the people here at John Boy Media and that follow Chris Rose Sports, and in particular Baseball Today, have been clamoring for this for months.
We love going live. We love our community. Remember, we started this show on Instagram Live. We love the chat aspect so much. We moved to AMP. That's no longer here. This is where we're going to live, people. Live with the chat, going eventually 5 days a week. But for now, we're going to stick with our 2 days a week until spring training gets going. But I'm very excited, Rosie, to have everyone back with us.
Yes, and we don't know exactly how we're going to work you guys into the show, but we're going to figure that out. Hopefully at some point we can hear your voices again like we did previously. That's an important part of our show. But in the meantime, you get these two voices. And let's get to it. Dodgers Fan Fest dodged the raindrops over the weekend, and all the bigwigs got together as they approached their 2024 season. Probably the biggest news to come out of it was that Shohei Ohtani said, listen, I'm making progress after right elbow surgery. I expect to be the DH when we start our season against the San Diego Padres over in South Korea. So that's the good news. But the one that made our ears and our eyes go, what the hell did he just say, was Mookie Betts at the mic.
Every game is going to be the other team's World Series. I mean, it is what it is. It's what we signed up for, you know?
Okay, so social media went nuts after that 6-second clip. Are people making too much of this thing?
Of course they are. How many times have we seen it? This is Dodgers Fan Fest, okay? Like when you're a player at your Fan Fest, the optimism is off the charts no matter who you are. Now, the Dodgers have the right to say this because of the roster they've constructed and the people they've brought in, but too much is being made of this. Now, I will say, is it like an insult to say, like, you know, we're your World Series to other franchises and teams? Of course it is. Like, that's, yeah. But there is a little bit of truth in that, too. Like, when you go play teams right now, like the Dodgers or the Braves or the Phillies, or now I'll even include the New York teams, even if they're not good, like, there's just something different about playing, you know, whether it's a team that on paper or the roster's awesome or in these big markets, like, there's a little bit of juice there that you get from playing. So, like, I don't know about World Series, but, like, you get up for these games. That's essentially what he's saying. So, like, people need to, like, cut Mookie some slack. Remember what kind of player this guy is. He's averaged over 7 WAR per his 9 seasons. So, like, this guy can get away with saying stuff like that because he's not only one of the best players, but also one of the most universally liked players in all of the games. So, I don't know. We had Dalton come on his social media and talk about Mookie's last three playoff series. I think he needs to give a little bit more respect to Mookie. I understand why people would take this and run with it. It's an easy soundbite, clickbait type thing to do. But, man, he's just doing what he's supposed to do at his Fan Fest to get everyone fired up.
So is this going to be the 6 seconds that derails the Dodgers season? Like, I always wonder this stuff. Like, are other teams now going to play the Dodgers harder because of what Mookie Betts said over 6 seconds? I mean, really, let's be honest here. On a day against, like, the Giants are going to play them just as tough one way or another, right? When they play the Chicago Cubs, they're going to play them just as tough because they're a good team. We know we have to be up when we play the Dodgers. Like, I don't see much of a difference between what Mookie Betts said and what Spencer Strider said at the Braves Fest, which was, hey, we're going to be disappointed if we don't win the World Series. I mean,
those are two different things, though, because Spencer said we're going to be disappointed if we don't. Not every team's World Series is playing us. So, like, there is a little bit of insult in what Mookie said.
That it's not insult. Teams have
been
saying that for years, though. Players have been saying that for years in every sport. Every sport. And guess what? It is. It's a big deal. You mentioned it when you play the Yankees. There's a different feeling in the stadium. When I used to go to games in Cleveland and the Yankees were in town, it's a different feel than when, with all due respect, the Kansas City Royals come into town. That's just a fact. So it is different when you play a team like the Dodgers, who have spent over $1 billion in player acquisitions in the offseason. That is a fact, people.
If he would have said we got a target on our back or we're going to get everybody's best shot, nobody would have thought about this because that's true. But when you say it's your team's World Series to play us, I mean, that's the insult part of it. Again, I don't think it's a big deal, but I can understand why people would take it and run with it.
Okay, so I do understand. I do get that there's a difference here. I like it. I like it that we have people that are saying stuff that makes it kind of fun. And if people want to go back and point to, oh, well, Mookie, you sucked in the playoffs, and he has not been nearly as good in the postseason.
Yeah, just call him out. Call Dalton out. That's fine.
Dalton Feely, our amazing comrade
Love you,
here
Dalton.
at John Boy Media. We do. But, yeah, I mean, I do think listen, you can cherry pick any sorts of stats. Mookie Betts is a 2-time World Series champion. He is a former league MVP. He is a true 5-tool player. He can do it all. And by the way, I think one day we'll see him in Cooperstown. So if you're going to start throwing darts at somebody, let's just be careful, because there's been a lot of really, really good players in baseball history that have struggled in the postseason as well. And he's done fine at sometimes. I know that it's like basically a 700 career playoff OPS with only 4 homers in 58 games. But so what?
If you don't think I bookmarked that Dalton Feely tweet, you're mistaken.
Okay. Let's move on to the one of the bigger trades we've had in the offseason. We had an emergency Baseball Today podcast last Thursday night that Jolly Olive was good enough to join us. Good job, Jolly, by the way. We talked a lot about that show from the Baltimore perspective, and O's GM Mike Elias actually came out on Friday, and he said the trade for Corbin Burnes is, quote, exactly what we need. You'd be hard-pressed to have anybody get on the other side of that quote and give some pushback. Now, the Orioles did give up DL Hall, Joey Ortiz, and the 34th pick for the right-hander, former Cy Young Award winner. As for the Brewers side of things, here is their GM, Matt Arnold.
I wouldn't at all look at this as any kind of rebuild at all. This is something, in fact, that we think helps us right now and helps us in the future. And so, again, adding veteran players like we have, bringing back guys like Wade Miley, but also making moves like this, and then investing long-term in somebody like Jackson Chourio, I think speaks to the balancing act that we're trying to walk here.
Okay, should the Brewers just say screw it and start unloading guys left and right at this point?
Oh man, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I think that, in my opinion, no, they shouldn't. But now they've got the ball rolling. I think it's probably going to happen. I really wanted to see the Brewers push their chips into the table with these pitchers that they had. I know that they're trying to sustain winning over the long haul, and they're going to do that with this trade. I think DL Hall is going to end up being a starter for them. He's going to be all right. They got Ortiz to come over and take over for Adames. Essentially, that's what they're thinking. They're going to be a competitive baseball team. But at some point, when you had what they had, which was those starting pitchers, at some point you got to push the chips in, and we never saw it happen with them. So that's what's disappointing to me. Do I think they're going to trade everyone? I don't know. Adames seems like a guy they might trade at the deadline. They're going to offer him a qualifying offer. They can keep him. If they get that, I think they'll be happy for that. I don't think he's going to demand a crazy package. Devin Williams, if you're going to trade him at some point, do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Do it now. And I think Matt Arnold was really, really upfront with how they're running things and how they think about things, which is, that's fine. So if you're going to be that way, do it. But as a fan and as a player, Rhys Hoskins, I said this on Talking Baseball. What did they tell Rhys Hoskins when he signed there? Did they tell him they're going to trade Corbin Burnes? Did they tell him they're going to unload these guys? Or were they selling the fact that, hey, look at this roster we have right now. We can go out and do things. I understand, Chris, where they're coming from as a front office. And, Corbin Burnes is always going to test free agency. He's quote unquote out of the price range. Okay. So I get that's what they want to do. They think they can evaluate talent and scout talent and draft talent and develop talent better than other organizations. And I would say that they're an upper echelon team in doing that. So I get what they're doing. I just think for fan base and players, eventually you gotta push it in when you have this window. You gotta take some chances, some risks. This is a no risk. This is taking no risks essentially to me. And sometimes you got to take the risk for your fan base.
Brewers fans, I'm with you. That's why I'm wearing my Brewers cap today. I feel your pain. Why? Because I am a Cleveland baseball fan. So welcome to our territory where you are trying to thread the needle as thin as possible. Every year, We want to keep the payroll down. We want to utilize our young guys, build from the farm system, make some shrewd trades, but also compete for a Central Division crown, which is exactly what Matt Arnold, I think, is trying to convince himself that he can do. Now, the NL Central has been a really interesting collection this offseason, right? The Cardinals have added some pitching. The Reds have added some play. Heck, even the Pirates have done it. And most recently, the Cubs have started to do something. I thought maybe the only thing they were going to do was bring in a new manager, and then they finally started bringing in some dudes, and maybe they still have one or two more shots to fire. The point is that I don't think anybody in that division is so great that the Brewers are going to end up 15 or 20 games out of the division. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. However, the Brewers know that they can pivot very, very quickly, whether that's in May, in June, or July. You mentioned Devin Williams. They've got a couple of starting pitchers in Wade Miley, who's got an option after this year. Freddie Peralta, who's got two very digestible options, and he's still, I believe, only 28 years old. And I think his next two options are for $8 million apiece. They've got dudes and Willie Adames, you already mentioned. Those are the biggest names here. So can they turn things around and get back into this really quickly? They have not set themselves up, in my opinion, to be the Tampa Bay Rays or even the Cleveland Guardians. To me, they're like a step behind the Rays, and they're a half step behind the Guardians on where they can both contend and kind of recoil your franchise on the run. So I think they're going to have to bite the bullet and go deal guys left and right in a couple of months.
You don't think this team's going to contend for the NL Central as currently constructed? I definitely do.
I don't. I think they've given up. I think they've lost too much starting pitching this year. One thing you forget about Burns is not only when he's at his best, he's a Cy Young type pitcher. He takes the ball every 5 days, which is something that this franchise has sorely lacked in the last couple of years, right? Brandon Woodruff, as good as he has been, has not been available. They just got rid of Adrian Hauser in a trade, who was a guy that they could plug in the back of their rotation. They expect Ashby to be back, but, he's been a health question mark too.
They believe in their young talent on this roster. I know that for a fact. All the outfielders that came up last year, the freshmen and all that, that's going to be their sophomore year. We'll see how they do. Jackson Churio, everyone believes that this kid is going to be an absolute stud. They already locked him up. So you have to give some credit in that regard. Like they're trying to play this game, Rose. Just kind of steady. And again, like, I get it. A lot of franchises are doing that. We can't just pick on the Brewers for doing this. I think they have made smart moves. They have done what needs to be done to do that. I just think that every once in a while, you got to take the risk.
Okay, I need to stop you there. They have had an unprecedented run of success for this franchise,
yes.
Okay? Until this little time of 2018 through now. Do you know that the Brewers had never made back-to-back postseasons before this?
Yes.
So they were in position, and you and I were both clamoring for them to get another arm, it was a few years ago, or get another stick most recently to help out that lineup. They never did it. So now they're stuck, okay? So this is a word of warning to anybody who's kind of following on the Brewers' path, their climb towards success. Like, to me, that could be like a Cincinnati Reds this year, like a team that feels like they've built something here. They've got a bunch of young guys that are growing up together. But if they need to pull the trigger at the trade deadline, you damn well better do it. Because if you don't fire your shot in a couple of years, you're going to be looking and saying, well, now we got to sell a bunch of pieces, or guys are going to walk, and we missed our opportunity. So I think, if anything, this is a word of warning to all of those middle financial tier teams.
They got to start locking up more young guys. Like, if they want,
did it.
I'm serious. Like, if they want to do this, then they got to act more like the Braves than like, whoever, like who they want to be. Like, you got to lock up these guys so you can eventually make that free agent push and stay within your payroll parameters, right?
I'm with you. Once again, this is Baseball Today on Monday, February 5th. And it's a big day for us because we are back going live. We're on our JM Baseball YouTube channel. So if you're catching it a little bit later and on the replay, just know that we are back live. We'll do it again later this week. And then eventually, once the middle of spring training goes and we start going 5 days a week, you can join us for the conversation. We really appreciate everybody joining us in the chat as those numbers are lighting up. In the meantime, we got more Baseball Today coming your way. But first,
All right, baseball today. Listeners, if you're looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. I'm a vet of Super Bowls. I went to one when my LA team won it. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BASEBALL today. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code BASEBALL today. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
All right, we continue on, and there was a report over the weekend from Bobby Nightingale, USA Today. Cheers to Bobby, by the way. Cheers. There you go, Bobby. That the Phillies could be a sleeper team for the services of a pair of prize free agents out there, either Cody Bellinger or pitcher Jordan Montgomery. Okay, my question is one, both, or neither end up in the city of brother they love?
I don't think either of them end up there. Although I have, like, sometimes you go a little fan fiction, like how cool would it be? And I'm going to go with like the Bellinger aspect of it. Again, people, I don't think either of these are going to happen. But if we did get Belly in there, that moves Marsh to left, him in center, Castellanos in right for the first 7 innings. And then you get Johan Rojas to come in there for defense late in the game. Like, I love it. That's Belly in that lineup with all those other guys that have that moxie. Like, I think he kind of balances it out a little bit. He's got the confidence, but he's like a little bit more like subdued and quiet. I think they might be able to bring out a little bit of that.
What up, dude?
Yeah, I think they might be able to bring out some like evil in him a little bit, which I would like love to see that side of him. The problem is Belly's looking to max out, dude. Like, he's not going to have a better platform year than he just had. So he's looking. This is going to be like his deal. It's not going to be like a short-term thing, which I think the Phillies would do if they're like, hey, we can get if he wasn't coming off this big year and they were going to offer him 1 year with the player option for the second, great. But that's not what's happening. Like, he's going to try to max out. So he doesn't really they're not going to do it, man. They're already 4th in payroll. Like, there's other things they need probably more than this. I think it's a good fit, but I think they could probably spend the money a little bit more wisely. So I don't think either of these are happening. See, Rosie.
I don't think so either. To me, the Bellinger move would be more interesting. The Montgomery one would be more practical. Let me start with the Bellinger angle. I think that if they pick him up, somebody's getting traded. I really do, because I don't think they want to keep tacking on all this payroll. Now, it means they might have to eat some money. Like a guy like Castellanos, who I think still has 3 more years and $60 million on his deal, is a guy where they could eat a little bit of money. But we know that he's still a solid bat. He hasn't worked out perfectly since they gave him the $100 million as a free agent, but there's been times where he has truly shined. So I think that would be the more fun one to add to see what the next move would be. To me, the Montgomery one actually makes a ton of sense here. Do you know that the Phillies have basically done nothing here in the offseason? Yes, they brought back Aaron Nola, which I think was somewhat unexpected for $172 million. So they kept one of the guys that they drafted and developed, and I thought that was a great story. But they really haven't added anything else, and I do think they need to go this direction. I think it would mean that this would be Zach Wheeler's last year in Philly. I mean, it's already the end of his 5-year contract, which I can't believe. But he's 34. Montgomery's 31. I get it. Montgomery doesn't have the same stuff that Zach Wheeler does. But if you have to add him as, a guy now in your rotation, and then by the time you get to the playoffs, because this team wouldn't make the playoffs, you've got Wheeler, Nola, Montgomery, and Ranger Suarez. That's pretty good. Those top 3 guys, they started 12 of their 13 playoff games last year. Christopher Sanchez got a spot start and went into the 3rd, and that was it. They needed a 4th guy. They did not trust Taijuan Walker last year. He didn't throw a single pitch for him in October. So they need somebody else. Why not go get a guy who just helped the Rangers win their first World Series?
I mean, look, I like it. Yeah. Most teams can use an extra high quality caliber starter. in their rotation. I understand that, but I just don't see it happen. I think if the Phillies get into the season, things are going the way they're supposed to go, everyone's healthy, I think we could see like a trade or something like that. Someone probably with more like years, not just a rental.
Okay. Yeah, last year they did the rental thing with Michael Lorenzen. I mean, yes, he got the no-hitter, which was really cool, but really didn't contribute much in the postseason. So I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun. John Heyman, very busy, that John Heyman. Both he and Robert Murray are reporting that the Kansas City Royals are making progress on extension talks with infielder Bobby Witt Jr. If you were the infielder, what number would you settle for in an agreement with the team?
I would love to be Bobby Witt Jr. You know I love my life. You know I love my life, but Bobby Witt Jr., those tools, just for one day to be able to do what he can do on a baseball field, my goodness. If I'm him, my starting point's 8-220. That's what I've decided.
Okay.
2 years in now. He's got 4 years left of team control, right? I think that he understands that the Royals are at least going to want 2 extra years of his free agency, but probably more like 4 years. So I think 8 is like the number that's going to be guaranteed. You know, there's going to be some weird options and opt-outs and no trade clause. All that stuff's going to be there. But I think 8-220, I think that's like 27.5 per year kind of makes sense. It's along the lines, like I think Austin Riley signed 10 years, 210 or something like that. So the money is a little bit lower, but I think the difference between those situations is the Royals like need a face of the franchise, and they've already publicly came out and said that. And so if you want that, you got to compensate your guy for it. He's a homegrown talent. He's, plays a premium position. He just had the first 30-30 season in franchise history. Like, this is your guy. Go lock him up. I think 8-220 is a good starting point. I mean, that's a lot of money for a young kid who really has had one good year. It's only 2 years in the show, but it's a lot of money for him. So I think he would accept that, and I think it's fair market value as well.
He significantly improved from his rookie year to his second year. I mean, you could see it. His at-bats were better. His OPS went up 90 points. I mean, he wasn't just a 30-30 guy. He was almost 30-50. He had 49 steals last year. And he did get caught, I think, 15 times. So that's an area where he can improve. It's just not the number of stolen bases. You need to have a higher percentage. But I expect him to continue to improve. You've heard nothing but great things, that he is a franchise-type player. He works his ass off, the whole bit. So to me, this is more important for, yes, the whatever money Bobby Witt Jr. gets at age 23, because he doesn't turn 24 until the middle of the summer. Whatever he gets now is great for him. This is a more important move for the Kansas City Royals than anything else. You have got to have guys whose uniform you can buy. Now, the Royals have been fortunate that they've held on to Salvi and that he didn't end up going anywhere, right? He had that first deal, which was horrible. What was it, like 5 years, $7 million for him?
Maybe the worst deal in the history of baseball.
Perhaps even Ozzie Albies represented it. What the hell are you doing here, dude? So they got fortunate that he kind of got suckered into a terrible deal, and then Salvi became Salvi, and then they finally paid him his due. They got him good money, which is what they did. But they didn't pay Moustakas a long-term deal. They didn't pay Hosmer a long-term deal. And these are the guys who rebuilt this franchise and all grew up together. So now you got to go for it here. And I think the Royals know that you have to have a dude. Do you know what Kansas City's other pro sports team is doing within the next 6 days?
I just read an ad for it.
Yeah. Okay. They're busy.
Yeah.
They've been busy at this time of year 3 times in the last 5 years. Every year they play in the AFC Championship game. They've got the face of the NFL. And, oh, by the way, that dude also owns a portion of the Kansas City Royals. Let's do this. You can have Mahomes on one side of the parking lot out there in Kansas City and Bobby Witt Jr. on the other side of the parking lot.
Aren't they trying to like build some district too? Like, this all plays into it, man. Like, you want to have excitement around your club when you're, trying to, build something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense for them to want to lock this guy up. And I got the chat popping over here, and they're like, do you remember when Trev said Bobby Witt Jr. is better than Julio Rodriguez? Hey, the jury's still out on that. I know Julio's a hell of a player. Bobby Witt's a hell of a player too, guys. Like, we'll see who has the better career. I think they're both going to have unbelievable career. So tomato, tomato.
Okay. Wow. So you're still throwing it down that it's a possibility.
I don't even know. I got to look at the stats. The reason I said that was I like a shortstop better than a center fielder.
We're still waiting on the Julio Rodriguez. That if he hits all of his escalators and everything else.
Oh, that's a weird deal.
Yeah, it is weird. Like you lose the math. I'd rather take calculus again than have to figure out Julio's contract.
Like it can get to like almost half a bill, right? Like it's like
around more than $450 million, I believe. But the one contract that was given to a guy very young in his career that I wonder if the San Diego Padres regret giving Fernando Tatis Jr. his money.
I mean, statistically and like type of player, I don't think they regret that. But are you trying to say like motivation wise? And
well, I mean, everything else that comes with. Listen, when you give a guy $340 million, you're not giving it to him just to be an awesome baseball player. He has to be available, number one, and he has to be a face of your franchise. And I think Tatis has the ability to get back there. I know we're getting off course here a little bit, but it's interesting to me because I'm sure this is what the Kansas City Royals are weighing. I mean, it is a crapshoot when you give a guy in his early 20s that amount of money because you're just hoping that he makes every right decision.
Yeah, if you're the Padres, are you like stoked that he has a PED suspension, fell off a motorcycle? Like, no, like, but he does have time. Like, he is like, dude, go around your local youth baseball field. People, the kids love Fernando Tatis Jr.
True.
So, like, that's kind of what you want. But yeah, you want him to make smart decisions off the baseball field as well. From all accounts, Bobby Witt Jr., phenomenal guy too. So it's a win-win. Like Bobby's gonna get set up for life. The Royals are gonna get their guy, and they need it. You're right, man. Like that when that franchise is good, those fans pour into the stadium. It's an awesome place to play. So like they deserve something like this.
Yeah. One other quick note on the Royals: save some money for my guy Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah,
done with him if he wants.
Pasquatch.
Okay? I don't even know what it was. All right, before we get out of here, we started with the Dodgers. We're going to end. They had a couple of great charity events. Mookie Betts had his 50-50 bowling tournament. That looked like a ton of fun on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, even though the weather crept into Southern California, it was ugly out there. The CT3 Foundation, that's Chris Taylor and his wife, they go out, they raise money to fight pediatric cancer and help assist parents who have children with special needs. It was an awesome, awesome thing. Now, what they did was the polar bear plunge, which if you're not familiar with it, you go find a really cold body of water and everybody jumps in. Out here in Los Angeles, it's usually not as cold as, let's say, Minnesota, where they might have Twins Fest at this time of year. But the Dodgers still went out there, and we went along for the ride with Alex Vesia.
Start the countdown. Join me. 10, 9, 8, 7. Oh, we're going in. Oh, we're in. We're in. We're in. We're in. We're in. Oh, it's so cold.
All right, so first of all, 2 thumbs up for the charity aspect of this. Let's remove that part. If you just were asked to go do a polar bear plunge, are you in or out?
In. I love it. I'm not like one of those like cold tub, like hardos, like gotta get in the cold tub every day. But I'll tell you what, if you overserved yourself, so to speak, the Pacific Ocean is the healer, man. I've done that so many times in my life. Early morning, I'm running right out there, diving into the ocean. There are some healing aspects to it. In fact, you know that little Cabo trip I went on? Did it a few times there in the Pacific. So I'm a big fan of it. I wish I would have been invited. I wasn't in town, but next year, CT, I'm going to come do it. I think that's awesome. And my favorite part of all of this, Chris, and you should probably know where I'm going to go with this. I was checking out all the bodies. How was your off season going? Let me see that body right there. You've been working hard, big fella?
Yeah. Our 2 guys from the Rose rotation, Tyler Glasnow and Miguel Rojas, were well represented out there.
Yeah.
I texted Glass to see how it was. He's like, dude, I live for this shit. I love that. You know what? That should be our goal. You should drag me because there's no way I would normally do a polar bear.
Okay.
Plunge. But if we want to, I'll take a camera and I'll show off this dad bod. No problem. There you go.
CT3. We are in next year. Chris Rose, shirtless on the beach. That's massive that's going to get everywhere. Viral.
Yeah. I mean, that'll bring the rest of the whales probably closer to the beach just for another look at one of their own. I'm just saying. Speaking of Miguel Rojas, he is the latest guest on the Chris Rose rotation. He was on the field when Yasiel Puig got sucker punched in the Venezuelan Winter League. He takes us through the anatomy of that fight. He's just always great. You feel better when you listen to a Rose rotation episode with Miguel Rojas, so check that out. All right, day one of Baseball Today Live is in the books. We appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. The numbers were enormous. I mean, that's all I can tell you. So keep telling your friends. We'll keep spreading the word, and eventually we'll get you guys back involved. So thank you very much. Outstanding job to everybody here at John Boy Media who helped pull this thing together. Most importantly, our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke. So, Danny, great job. Awesome work. Take the rest of the day off. So for Dan Rourke and the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you later this week for another live edition of Baseball Today.